Welcome to Real Talk. I'm Dr. Asha Prasad, and today we're doing exactly what this podcast is going to be all about. We're getting real, not polished, not perfect, and definitely not pretending. You know, I've been thinking about this first episode for months now, and I kept asking myself, how do I want to introduce myself? Should I list my degrees, my professional background, the fact that I've lived in three, different continents and have influence of different cultures, and what is it? But the truth is, you don't need my resume. What you do need is honestly what I need as well, and that's connection. Real connection, the kind that doesn't require filters or small talk. I was born and raised in the U.S. to immigrant parents from India, which meant from day one, I was in the middle of living in a cultural mashup. I'd go to school, pledge allegiance to the flag, eat cafeteria pizza, and come home, take off my shoes at the door, eat curry and rice with my hands, and in between, trying to figure out if I was too Indian for my American friends and too American for my Indian family. And spoiler alert, I was both, and neither at the same time. But I will tell you this, when you grow up feeling like you're somewhere in between, you learn to become like a bit of a chameleon. And I think that's something that you learn how to fit in, how to smile, nod, blend, how to code switch. I mean, you get really professional at it. And you also learn how exhausting that can be. Somewhere along the way, I realized that I wasn't the only one doing this. And maybe you felt this too, the weird sense of not quite belonging. Maybe you didn't grow up between cultures, but between expectations, family, society, the version of yourself that you thought you had to be. For me, adulthood, or adulting, as we love to call it, turned out to be less about fighting it all out, but about unlearning a lot of what I thought I had to be. And then eventually I found myself moving to yet another culture, and that unleashed so much more. And the unlearning part has been very messy, and that's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's dropping the act that you've always got it together, or realizing, wow, I actually don't know what I'm doing half the time, but I'm still figuring it out as I go along. And maybe that's just okay. It's realizing that grieving isn't just about losing people. Sometimes it's about grieving older versions of ourselves. The dream that we had when we were 25, and the career path that we didn't take, the friendships that we outgrew, or the parents that were once who we thought were invincible, becoming frail and older. And it's weird, when you become the adult in your relationships with your parents, for example. The first time that I had to explain something such as simple as we experienced it as technology to my dad, for example, he was a brilliant man, but there were certain things that I thought, wow, I'm officially an adult. I'm having to teach him something. Giving him the opportunity to learn something that I can teach, that I know a little bit better. And, when it comes to aging parents, there's a bittersweetness that comes with it. It's a mix of frustration, love, gratitude, and a whole lot of emotional whiplash, because you start seeing your parents as humans, flawed, vulnerable, and that cracks you open in ways that you've never expected. And I know not everybody has close relationships with their parents. I was fortunate to have close relationships with both of my parents, and they were very different. And I will be talking about that along the way as we go, things that I learned, things that I observed. But it's not always the way that you expected as you get older. And I know that some people don't even speak to their parents, which I find very strange and very odd, because I can't relate to it, but at the same time, I can understand it. I do have friends that are experiencing that, and I can definitely understand it. Then there's this whole thing that life doesn't look like everyone else's, everything in your life. I didn't take a traditional path in career, in relationships, in pretty much anything. And honestly, that's been terrifying. It has made me feel outcasted, but at the same time, very freeing. I've moved countries, changed careers, added things to my career, learned new skills, And yes, when I was supposed to say no and said no, when I was supposed to say yes. So there's just like, this way that you march to the beat of your own drum. But they don't tell you when people say that you're the only one that's dancing. And it feels awkward and it can feel lonely. Like, why did I think that this was a good idea again? But somewhere in that awkwardness, that's where the good stuff lives. And that's what I want to talk to you about. That's what I want to share with you about. I want to get real. That's where the authenticity grows. It's not polished highlight reels, but the in-between moments. So that's what this is about. The in-between, the messy middle part, the stories that we don't always tell, the real talk we have in whispered conversations with our closest friends, or maybe the talk we've been waiting to have, with other people, but we've been having it between our own two ears. And I want to talk about what it's like to feel different, to think differently, to question everything, to grow older, gracefully, awkwardly, sometimes everything at once. And about the grief, the joy, the change, the hope, about how we rebuild after life knocks the wind out of us. Because it does happen. It happens to all of us. And about how we open up to life when we'd rather shut down. And yes, sometimes about how to laugh at ourselves, actually all the time, to laugh at ourselves when we take it all way too seriously. This has been a saving grace for me, is to find the humor. Because if there's one thing that I've learned, it's the real life that doesn't fit neatly into categories, and neither do we. So if you've ever felt like you're on your own little island, or if you've ever wondered, am I the only one that feels this way? If you're craving a space where we drop the mask and just talk, you're in the right place. This is real talk. No filters, no fluff, just honest conversations about life with all its beauty, heartbreak, hilarity, and raw, messy wonder. I'm glad that you're here. I'd like to dive into many different topics. I probably will have some guests on here. It's something I want to, I've been wrestling with this for quite some time. It's been very difficult to want to do this, but at the same time, I feel like it's time to do this now because I'm ready for my next level of a sense of freedom. I want to be open with people and talk about some things and help other people feel their sense of belonging and their sense of, validating what they feel. Everybody feels things differently. I'd like to dive into something the next episode or two that I think a lot of us wrestle with. And it says, why does being different feel so hard? It's kind of like, why, and how do we stop apologizing for it? Because until we learn to accept ourselves, really can't be ourselves. So I hope you'll join me on this journey. Thank you so much. Until then, stay curious, stay kind, and don't be afraid to get a little messy in life, because that's exactly where the magic happens.